Welcome to the 3-day Las Vegas itinerary for couples. I want to preface this with a couple of things. So, anybody can do this itinerary. It's just kind of geared more towards couples since that is how my husband and I travel together. Most of the recommendations here are friendly for any kind of traveler. Also, this originally started as our very first trip together, which was like May of 2017. A handful of different food places or drink places or things like that have either changed names or closed, and we used to do Vegas weekends like a million times when we lived out in California. So I've updated it to reflect what's currently available as of at least 2026. So it's not exactly what we did the first time, but it's what I would recommend doing, having gone a million times. And one thing I wanted to cover too, just so that you have a little bit of background of the area that we're talking about and how close knit together the Las Vegas Strip is. So this itinerary does focus on just the Las Vegas Strip. You can see here it's about 9 miles from the Vegas airport all the way here to downtown Vegas. But the Las Vegas Strip is this little section right here. And we're going to focus on what is kind of known as like the center strip. So the itinerary will focus around this core area. So you have like Bellagio, Cosmopolitan, Grand Bazaar shops. This is kind of like the day one things to do. And then you have like Caesar's Palace and then the Venetian down here. You have the LINQ Promenade. So this will be kind of the day two section. And then over here you have Paris and you have the Miracle Mile shops, and that'll be day 3. So that way you're not going up and down the whole strip back and forth to different places. You're staying very centrally located. Okay, so now back to the itinerary now that you have a little bit of the premise. Here I do have a YouTube video that kind of highlights the exact things that we did during that original trip, but it doesn't exactly match this current itinerary because of the things that have closed. I also have on an app called GPS My City, you can also download this article to get like a self-guided walking tour where it has pinpoints on a map and it will lead you around to the different places. So day 1 is Bellagio, Cosmopolitan, and Grand Bazaar shops. We start off every trip having lunch at Noodles. Let me move myself over this way. Maybe I'll even block ads. There we go. So we have lunch at Noodles. This is at the Bellagio, just off of, if you walk into the lobby, it's to your right inside the casino. And we always get the sweet and spicy noodles, and they are so delicious. We get them with beef. And then we also get the pan-fried pot stickers, which I get literally everywhere. And then the barbecue pork fried rice. It doesn't really look like much, but the barbecue pork flavoring here is like my favorite that I've had literally anywhere. And also some hot tea sometimes, it depends. When we go in the summer, maybe not so much. But we go here every single time. We take everybody here. This is kind of, we always plan it into our trip. So we like to just start it off. That's how you like, you know the trip is starting. Next door to that, so inside the Bellagio, if you're in the lobby, if you go to the right, you're at Noodles. If you go straight, you'll see the Bellagio Conservatory. This is like a flower and garden exhibit. It's completely free. I'm pretty sure it's open 24/7. So you can go kind of in off times if you want like pictures without people in them. They change it out periodically. So a lot of times they'll have Lunar New Year. I've seen like a fall forest theme before. But all of these things are like made out of flowers, and it's huge. Like this is only one corner. There's probably like 6 or 7 other exhibits within this one conservatory to see all the different flowers. It's really great for photos and just a free activity and, walking around after you've had a full meal. Then across the street, what's really nice about Vegas is you're never like in the street. They have escalators and then walkways to bring you up and over the street all the time, which is nice. So just across the street is the Grand Bazaar shops. They're attached to the Horseshoe, which used to be Bally's. They have a couple good drink spots there. They also have a lot of food there. We've eaten at Giordano's there before and Wahlburgers, and they have some other stuff. But in particular, what we like to do is on pretty much every corner, there are people giving out 2-for-1 drink coupons for Fuel Bar. They're also giving out other things that you can ignore those, but 2-for-1 drinks at Fuel Bar are really great. There's nothing really like especially unique about the Fuel Bar drinks themselves. They're pretty middle of the road, but it saves you money. The bartenders are always like really nice, and they do a little bit of a show with like making the drinks, so it's a good place to go. And then next to that is Island Time Tiki Floats. If you're more into like the tropical drinks, then you can get them from here. We've gone, I have older pictures than this one that they did the little like umbrella and things like that, where they've done it a little fancier before. But that's what I recommend there over at the Grand Bazaar shops. And then dinner, Guy Fieri has a couple different restaurants in Vegas now, but they all kind of follow the same menu. So the one that's here closest to this area is the Flavortown Sports Kitchen. But over on the LINQ Promenade over by Harrah's is like just the regular Guy Fieri's Las Vegas kitchen, which is the one that we have eaten at. And we've also been, he has one in Branson and he has one in the Poconos. We've been to both of those. But they all kind of have the same menu item, so it doesn't really matter which location you go to. But the number one thing that they're known for is their trash can nachos. They literally bring it to you in this like trash can pail and like lift it up and it all falls out. And what's great about these nachos is every single layer has all the toppings, because most places will like make a big pile of nachos and then put all the layers on top. So all the nachos sitting there on the bottom have nothing on them, but these are all throughout and they're really good quality. Like these are sturdy chips. So I definitely recommend that. When we went, they also had a mac and cheese burger. You can see a little bit of the mac and cheese there. I think it was like a special because I don't see it on their current menu, but it might just be listed as something else. I definitely recommend. And then they also have this massive chocolate cake with like chocolate and caramel drizzle and stuff. When we ordered this one, we did have another person with us. We definitely wouldn't have been able to eat all of those things ourselves. But one thing to keep in mind about Vegas is the vast majority of the hotel rooms, they stock their fridge so that you can't access it or use it. The only thing it's there for is to for you to pay for drinks they've already provided. Unless you stay at like the timeshare resorts, which you can pay, you would pay for it like a normal hotel. You don't have to be like a timeshare owner to stay at them. But one is Polo Towers, and it's right there on the Strip. It's diagonal from Cosmopolitan. So it's centrally located to everything you're doing here. You can have, if you get like a 1 or 2 bedroom, you'll have a full kitchen, like full size fridge, microwave, oven, all that stuff. So you can have leftovers. They even have a studio that still has like the fridge and microwave and stuff. So you can take home leftovers if you're staying in those kinds of places. But if you're just in like a regular Vegas hotel, it's highly likely you're not going to be able to use your refrigerator. So you'll need to bring like a cooler and like pack it with ice or something if you're planning on having leftovers or storing food. The next thing for the evening, as it starts to get darker, is the Bellagio fountains. This is another free event. So these fountains go like every 15 or 30 minutes. It's practically like continuous. If you're, walking up and down the Strip or passing by, you'll likely see the fountains going every single time you look at them. But it's always like different songs and like a different show each time. So you can watch it more than once or, just have the one show. But it's, one of the icons of visiting Vegas, and it's right there and it's free. And then if you want to do more the rest of the evening, then I recommend going over to the Cosmopolitan. They have a bunch of speakeasies and some bars that might as well be speakeasies that they are known for, some that are more well known than others, and these are the ones that I recommend. So first is the Ski Lodge. So here at the Ski Lodge, they have the little window behind the bar to make it look like you're in a ski lodge and kind of like the darker, dimly lit lighting. And then there's also a barber shop. It looks like a regular barber shop, like when you walk in, and I think they actually do have a barber shop there. But in the back door, I think it's like the janitor closet door, then you go into this whiskey bar that has live music. It's very like dark academia looking. The most well-known one that has gone kind of viral is Ghost Donkey. This is in the food court. You just have to find a door that has a donkey on it, and it is behind there. This is where you'll get all your like tequila drinks. It's very small. It only fits maybe a few dozen people max. So you may have to go kind of in more off hours or like keep checking back to get in. And then this last one, it's not a speakeasy, but they do have a secret menu item that is becoming a little bit more well-known, but it's here at the Chandelier Bar. You'll see here in the background this big chandelier. When you go into the Cosmopolitan, the chandelier comes down like multiple stories, so this bar is like inside of that, so you can't really miss it. But this little flower that they put in this drink, it makes your tongue numb and tingly. And I personally did not have the drink when we went. It was with JP, my husband's fraternity brothers. They do a trip every year, and they tried it. I it wasn't high on my list of things to do to try that, but a lot of people are into it. So that would be a cool drink to try and a cool bar to try as well. And then day 2, we're going to move a little bit farther north on the strip, covering Caesar's Palace, the LINQ Promenade, and the Venetian. One thing that you can do first thing in the morning if you're up and about and just a lot of stuff isn't going on yet is escape rooms. We absolutely love them. We do them everywhere. They have the Escape game, which is like a national chain that they have different games in different locations, but every game here is somewhere else, so you may have done them already. But when we went, we did a gold rush, like gold mining theme. But we've also done these in San Francisco and Cincinnati, trying out different rooms. It's nice to do like, because it's inside the Forum shops, so you can do like one of the first couple escape room times, and then by the time you're done, like the shops are open and it's starting to be lunchtime, that kind of thing. So the Forum shops looks how you would think at a place called Caesar's Palace. So it's good walking around, window shopping, seeing what's interesting, again, until like things open or until it's lunchtime. Then across the street is the LINQ Promenade. So the LINQ is another like resort and casino. The promenade there, they have like zip lining and stuff and lots of like restaurants and things. If you've never been to In-N-Out and you want to try it, this is a great place to try it. That I recommend if you want just more like a quick lunch or a cheap lunch is there's these place that makes sushi burritos. So it's just like, you know, a big fat sushi roll that looks like a burrito. I just get like California rolls. Like I don't do anything like fancy or slimy with sushi. My husband does, but they have like tame stuff if you're like, you know, new to sushi. I highly recommend this place. Another place right there at the LINQ Promenade is called Off the Strip. We went for a happy hour a few years ago and had their mac and cheese, which was this one here, a mac and cheese. We also got a drink. I think it might have just been like an old fashioned or something, but this is another good place to go to that's right there. And then if you want some dessert, Sweet Sin is a little ice cream shop. You can sample all the different flavors and get a couple scoops of ice cream while you head over to the Venetian. Since it gets, you know, like in the hundreds in Vegas in the summer, if that's when you're there, you may want something to cool off. And then once you get to the Venetian, they have Madame Tussauds Wax Museum. These are in all the big tourist destinations. We've done this one in San Francisco as well. But they have unique to Vegas things. So they have scenes from The Hangover. Here you can see like the wedding chapel. But then they also have like the Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas sign. They have a lot of the like back in the day Vegas acts. So it is unique to Vegas. And then they have some things that you can kind of see anywhere. And then another fun thing to do over at the Venetian is the gondola rides. So they do indoor and outdoor gondola rides. So depending on the weather and depending if you want indoor or outdoor, you can either do this now or do it in the evening. On the trip that we did it, I think it was my birthday. So it would have been like August. And we did the nighttime one outside because we wanted it to not be 100 degrees, just baking in a gondola. So you can kind of finagle that around a little bit based off of what you're wanting to do. But my favorite thing to go to the Venetian for is happy hours. Since it's all Italian, it's got all of my favorite foods, and all of their happy hours are really great. We've gone back lots and lots of times, so these are like my favorites over time that we've done. Here at the Mercato, the meatball is super great. It's a very popular happy hour item, by the way, like at all of these, just a big giant meatball. But what I like about this one is that they'll do like the bread and the olive oil too, which is nice. And then this one, for some reason, I don't know where my photos have gone for this one either, but we would always do the pizzas here. And I think like the margarita pizza is kind of the most popular one for happy hours just in general. Canaletto, we also do a lot. So margarita pizza, a couple different times we've gotten it. I don't know what all is on this pizza. We got this one when my husband's son came with us and they had this. I don't know what it is. But their bruschetta and calamari were also good, and their mixed drinks are also good as well. I would say Canaletto and the Mercato are like the main two that we'll always go to every time, even if we don't do any others. Another good one is sugarcane. When we went, they had this slider topped with a quail egg, but I don't see it on their menu anymore. But they do have bacon wrapped dates now, and I've loved them every place I've ever had them. I haven't had them here though. But that's what I would recommend because I love bacon wrap dates. If you've never had them, they are so good. And then the number one thing that I recommend at the Venetian, just in general, is the Bouchon Bakery. If you don't know anything about it, a little background, there is a famous chef named Thomas Keller. We are not related. And he owns like the French Laundry, which is supposed to be like the top restaurant in the US. And he also has these Bouchon bakeries in different locations. We've gone to the one in Napa and the one here in Vegas. And in particular, this chocolate Bouchon, I believe it means cork. So it's like cork shaped, like wine bottle cork. And that's what it's supposed to resemble. But I had this kids cookbook when Ratatouille came out. It was a Disney cookbook to make different recipes from the movie or inspired by the movie. And at the end, they had this special section of Thomas Keller's chocolate Bouchon. So I used to make them as a kid. And so then when we were up in Napa wine tasting and I saw this place, I was like, oh my gosh, we have to try these chocolate Bouchons and compare. And it's a little more on the bitter side than the sweeter side since it is like French style, but it is delicious. I prefer it that way anyway. So definitely try those or anything else at the bakery, but definitely the chocolate Bouchons. You can usually get them in like a little pack of like 3 or 5 or 6 or something like that. And then day 3, we're going to move across the street and do Paris and the Miracle Mile shops. So Paris, this is the one place that I've done breakfast in Vegas because I don't care for breakfast. I'd rather eat more foods that I enjoy later in the day. Ham and cheese omelet is good. Corned beef hash is good. It's just a nice setting because it's like a Parisian cafe, like right there on the street. And it's nice in the morning because it's not busy or loud yet. Unless you like busy and loud for people watching, then go in a busier time. Inside the Miracle Mile shops, really all over Vegas they have these, but specifically I know that they have them in the Miracle Mile shops. They have the aqua massages and the oxygen bars. And they're really cheap because it's a short thing. Like the aqua massage, I think, are like 10 or 15 minute increments that you purchase. And then the oxygen bar is also like a 10 or 15 minute thing. And you can pick different scents to mix or just individual scents to use. And then the one thing that we always also get, we tend to do this at the very end of our trip, unless we're leaving on a Sunday at checkout time, which we try to never do because if you are leaving Sunday at like 10 or 11 a.m. from Vegas driving back to California, you will sit in hours and hours and hours of traffic across the entire desert, and it's terrible. But to get Nutella and banana crepes from Paris are so good. As long as you're not going during those times, you shouldn't have like an hour-long wait. And they also have savory ones too. It's just that the Nutella one in particular is the one that we love. So for where to stay in all of this, obviously, I'd recommend any of the hotels that we mentioned. So like Bellagio, Cosmopolitan, Paris, Caesar's Palace, Venetian. Venetian is on the farthest end of all of these, so you would be walking a little bit more. But as far as like for a couples thing, like Bellagio or Paris would kind of be like the top ones. But if you're wanting, the access to a refrigerator, then I definitely recommend Polo Towers, which is diagonal from Cosmopolitan. Here's just what like the average room in Paris looks like. And then if you do Bellagio, they have these staywell rooms that have like big jacuzzi tubs with like TV in the bathroom and like waterfalls. So that's really nice if you do that. Vegas also has these passes called Go City passes where you can bundle a bunch of like activities together into one thing. So it'll save you money overall than like buying things individually. We did this on a San Francisco trip specifically to test out like how much you could do and how much it would save you. So I definitely recommend that if you're going to do like paid for activities. And then because we've gone to Vegas so much, I have a ton of posts about Vegas and these are kind of the most relevant. So birthday freebies, you can get an insane amount of free stuff in Vegas for your birthday. Things to do that don't involve gambling. This whole itinerary, none of it involved gambling, but there's free time built in there if you wanted to do that. Here's a picture of the high roller observation wheel. Things to do in Vegas off the strip. If you're fine with driving and wanting to see kind of some other area, definitely do that. Going to a timeshare presentation. There's good and bad for that. They'll offer you all kinds of free stuff that you can use on your trip. We've gotten like $100 dinners at Vic and Anthony Steakhouse. all kinds of free attractions and free stays and whatever. But if it's not worth an hour of your time to get all of that free stuff, then don't worry about it. It's not for you. Area 15 is a little bit of a drive away, I think like 15 minutes from the strip, but it's like a million different activities all in one place. I highly recommend that if you have extra time. The Neon Museum over near downtown is also really cool. It's all the old neon signs that aren't in use anymore. They have like a boneyard of all the signs and they do a little show. Restaurant-wise, some more dining ideas. We have a list of all the best cheap restaurants. We have the places with the best drinks. This one's from Area 15 at their Van Gogh exhibit. Best desserts. Vegas has fantastic desserts. Romantic restaurants, plenty of those. Italian restaurants, plenty of those. So that is the 3-day Las Vegas itinerary for couples.